And good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. My name is Dr. Ashaki Noni Nichols, and I will be your host. Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. And today is Tell It All Tuesday. So with that, let's get into our Kids Corner.
Money can buy happiness. Well, 6-year-old Ryan was about to learn that some things are richer than gold, like kindness and hard work. One bright morning, Ryan's father told him to visit their farmland outside the city. Ryan thought it would be boring, but he had no idea what he was about to discover. At the farm, Ryan met Taro, a kind farmer boy his age. Taro didn't have fancy clothes or toys, but his big smile made Ryan feel strangely happy. Taro showed Ryan how to water the plants and feed the animals. Ryan's soft hands got muddy, but for the first time he felt joy that money couldn't buy. At lunchtime, Ryan saw Taro sharing his small meal with a bird. Ryan realized that being rich wasn't about owning things, it was about sharing from the heart. Before leaving, Ryan gave Taro his smartwatch. Taro smiled and handed him a small plant, saying, "This will grow if you care for it like a friend." Back home, Ryan placed the plant on his window and whispered, "True riches grow when we share." From that day, Ryan's heart bloomed with kindness. True happiness doesn't come from what we own, but from what we give. Sharing makes hearts rich and turns small moments into treasures of kindness.
And these are things that we are definitely going to need to hold on to in these coming days, right? Because the world right now is an interesting place. You know, we have wars and rumors of wars. So we need to stay vigilant and definitely, care for those that are your neighbors. And let's start off our day with honoring God with our body. So God, please guard our mind and our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect my ears and help me listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect my eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help my hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. And God, please help protect our reproductive organs, God, and help us to honor you, God, with purity. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect our feet and help us walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And that is something, again, that we just try to do here daily on Unfiltered Vision News. Is that if this is your first time joining us, welcome and good morning, Spud McKenzie. Thanks for joining us this morning on YouTube. And please let me know where you're joining us. If you're joining us from YouTube or X or Facebook, please let us know where you're joining us from this morning. And thank you so much for joining. And remember to like, share, and subscribe, especially if you're on YouTube or Facebook. It does help the algorithm and it helps people know that I'm even here. And later on in the chat, I will definitely put how you can help to support the channel and definitely keep us here on the air. So with that, I want to get into our first piece of news. It's a little bit sad. We lost an icon, Mr. Chuck Norris, last Thursday.
An action hero and an internet icon. There's little Chuck Norris couldn't or wouldn't do. The 86-year-old, long deemed invincible, has died suddenly, leaving his legion of fans in shock.
Chuck Norris wasn't just an action hero, he was the action hero.
You have the right to remain silent.
A black belt in multiple martial arts, a 6-time world karate champion. And once Chuck Norris had conquered fighting, he roundhouse kicked his way onto the big screen.
And I was looking for something to get involved in, a new goal for myself. And I had thought about acting.
His first film was the perfect fit. Norris playing Bruce Lee's opponent in the 1972 movie The Way of the Dragon. And there would be at least 3 dozen more, chock-a-block with action and performed entirely by Norris himself. Almost.
Chuck Norris never uses a stunt double, except during crime scenes.
On long-running series Walker, Texas Ranger, he was a rugged and ruthless hero.
Do you think we can do this without breaking anything?
I'll do my best. I tried.
And in 2010, Chuck Norris and brother Aaron became actual Texas Rangers.
They helped elevate our Texas Rangers to truly mythical status.
Carlos Ray Chuck Norris was born in Oklahoma in 1940. A veteran of the US Air Force, he was stationed in South Korea. That's where he began learning martial arts. By the 90s, it was Texas he called home. The Lone Wolf Ranch, Chuck's slice of paradise with wife Gina O'Kelly.
Oh, we have an alligator, actually.
What?
His internet lore was legendary. Chuck Norris, tougher than tough. He didn't tell jokes. Jokes told Chuck Norris.
When the boogeyman goes to sleep every night, he checks his closet for Chuck Norris.
When I do push-ups, I don't push myself up. I push the earth down.
I petted him, and all of a sudden, you heard this like that. So the trainer says, get up very slowly and back up. So the tiger did.
Just 10 days ago, on his 86th birthday, Norris was videoed training in Hawaii. He wrote he was in good health.
I don't age. I level up.
Days later, a sudden undisclosed medical episode put Norris in hospital. His family today announcing his death. While we would like to keep the circumstances private, please know that he was surrounded by his family and was at peace. To the world, he was a martial artist, actor, and a symbol of strength. To him, you were not just fans, you were his friends. And when it came to friends, Chuck Norris had so many. He was all-American in every way, said Sylvester Stallone. Arnold Schwarzenegger writing, Chuck was an icon. He was a badass in real life and in Hollywood. From Priscilla Presley, I'm so sad to hear that my karate instructor and friend Chuck Norris has passed away. And from the US President.
He was a great guy. He was a really good, tough cookie. You didn't want to fight him.
The man, the myth, the legend, the formidable Chuck Norris. In the United States, Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
Yeah, he was great. He was, in my opinion, what Saturday afternoons were made of. After you watch Saturday morning cartoons, you would, kind of curl up with a good Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris movie in the afternoon. So definitely prayers for his family and his very close friends and for those that admired him and admired his career. We pay our respects to Mr. Norris. All right, let's get into our trending topics for today on X. The first one being Rand Paul has proposed ice drop masks in cities to end DHS funding standoff. Paul's idea, and this would be Rand Paul, revives his March call to align ICE with local police practices amid a partial DHS funding lapse since February that furloughed thousands, including TSA screeners and Coast Guard members. DHS says mask protects agents facing 1,300% more assaults and 8,000 more death threats, plus doxing risk from activist sites listing 4,500 officers. Critics like Paul argue masks erode accountability and intimidate communities, while supporters of mask cite safety. The proposal aims to break the Senate impasse over immigration reforms. Guess what? It's not. See, this is a slippery slope because once you give an inch, they will take a mile. Because they'll be like, okay, well, if they can't wear masks, they can't do this, they can't do. It's never going to be enough because see, some people are like the grave never satisfied. Now there are individuals wearing this mask for protection. Why are you taking away their protection? Because you have to remember, even these protesters are also wearing masks. So what are we talking about? There are protesters out there wearing masks on purpose to make sure that their identity isn't revealed, right? Are you protecting these agents and their families? Do they have extra security? They're being doxxed. This comes back to protection, Mr. Paul. And if you're not going to protect the agents, what are you doing? Now, a lot of people say, well, they shouldn't wear masks. No, they have every right to wear those masks. That is their right to protect themselves. Last I checked, we do have a constitution, and you have the right to protect yourselves. Are we at war now with the ICE agents? Move, protect yourself, and communicate. Their communication is being hindered. Their protection is being hindered. Their movement is being hindered because they're being doxxed and their families are being threatened. Where is their protection to do this job against this rogue populace? That's what I'm talking about. What are we doing? The answer is no. Don't you ever tell the administration what they can and cannot do. That's not your job. Now, if you wanted it in the law, you should have wrote the law that way, and you didn't, because you can't. Because you cannot tell somebody that they cannot defend themselves. Have you lost your mind? Yeah. No. No. Okay. Next one. Judge releases a 12-year-old accused in Miami gang rape on house arrest. What? So on June 18, 2025, in Miami's Overton neighborhood, a 12-year-old girl was allegedly grabbed, pinned down, and sexually battered for 30 minutes by 3 boys aged 12, 13, and 14. What is going on? With one suffering rocks in her mouth to silence her screams. Judge Richard Hirsch denied bond for the alleged ringleader, 13-year-old Nelson Nunez, but released Joshua Jones, citing insufficient proof of guilt and claims he acted under duress from older boys. Jones now faces total house arrest with GPS monitor, family supervision, and no contact with the victim, as the case heads to trial amid widespread online criticism of the ruling. What is going on? That people so young are being this abusive. Where are they learning these things from? Obviously, the internet. Obviously, there has been a breakdown in society when a 12-year-old thinks they can do this. That's crazy.
From today's hearing, and I'll tell you some more details about what happened. There were 2 very different outcomes today. 13-year-old Nelson Nunez, the suspect accused of raping a young girl, will remain behind bars in an adult correctional facility as he awaits trial. Over the past several days, his attorney had Nunez's family members tell the judge how they would ensure his supervision if he were to be released. The judge was not convinced. However, 12-year-old Josiah Jones, the suspect accused of putting rocks in the young girl's mouth to silence her as she was allegedly being raped by Nelson Nunez, will be allowed to go home as he awaits trial. He'll be on lockdown at home. He'll have to attend virtual school and can't have access to the internet outside of school, and may not contact the victim or any other defendants. So both suspects are being tried as adults. We spoke to attorneys for both suspects after the ruling.
Now, that doesn't mean he's going to stay in custody forever. It just means for now, as we are defending the case and resolving the case, he will remain in custody.
My client received a substantial different outcome because he was in substantially different position. The position he was in was that he was forced to do the things that he did by the other 2 children as a threat of force. And those were the words of the young victim herself.
We live in a scary world where, in my opinion, they're babies doing this. This is crazy. This is really insane. In the last late mail ballots after Election Day. So during oral arguments in a challenge to Mississippi's policy of accepting mail-in ballots up to 5 days after Election Day if postmarked on time. So let's just say the cutoff was the 12th, but your ballot didn't show up till the 17th. They're still going to count it because it was postmarked 12th. I call foul. I call foul. Period. But because see, that doesn't stop these poll workers from throwing ballots in the trash. That's been found. I'm just saying it's happened. So even if somebody were to get their ballots in on time, what's to say that you're not going to count them if you don't like what the ballot says? Huh? There has to be a cutoff date. There has to be a cutoff date. And it should be, if it's early voting and absentee ballots that are to be mailed in, they have to have a date. They cannot be counted after the election is over. Anything that comes in after the election is invalid, period. It's invalid. That's why we should not have mail-in ballots. Absentee, absolutely, because absentee has to be in before a specific date. And that's it. No mail-in ballots. If postmarked on time, conservative justices expressed strong doubts about varying state grace periods. They highlighted federal laws setting a uniform election day since 1845. Yeah. And raised concerns over fraud risk and eroding voter confidence from late counted ballots that could flip results. Liberal justices defended longstanding state practices and argued federal statutes allow discretion on ballot receipts, and a decision accepted by Summer could impact rules in at least 14 states. Yeah, it could. This is insane. It says, Eric Darter says, holy crap, as many as 29 states may have their laws overturned after the Supreme Court indicated they will rule against allowing mail-in ballots to come in after Election Day. This could be huge and could be a 6-3 ruling. So Justice Alito, Independence Day, birthday, and Election Day, they are all particular days. So if we start with that, if I have nothing more to look at than the phrase Election Day, I think this is the day in which everything is going to take place. Yes, because see, I remember even growing up as a young child, before I could vote, the elections would come in kind of late, maybe like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. That was usually the latest. And that was it. We had Election Day. You kind of knew before you went to bed, if you stayed up that late, right, who won their races. No, now we have election month, because there's weeks afterwards that people say, oh, we had another ballot in. No. No. I'm with him. Election Day. And that's all it should be. It's Election Day.
The justices are wrestling with a question about whether states can count ballots received after Election Day in a case that could have an impact in nearly 30 states that allow some kind of grace period. The RNC is challenging a Mississippi law that allows ballots to be counted up to 5 business days after Election Day if they're postmarked by Election Day. Justice Alito was among the biggest skeptics during Monday's arguments.
Independence Day, birthday, and Election Day, and they're all particular days. So if we start with that, if I have nothing more to look at than the phrase Election Day, I think this is the day in which everything is going to take place.
But Justice Kagan questioned the impact of that logic on practices like early voting.
It seems to me it's a rule that prevents early voting, because you're basically saying there are 2 things that have to happen, and they have to happen on Election Day.
Meaning the casting of the vote and the receipt of that vote. But Attorney Paul Clement, representing the RNC, said the argument is that the process be consummated or completed by Election Day. A number of the justices also raised the issue of the potential for the appearance of fraud when votes arrive and are counted after Election Day. And there wind up being shifts in vote totals and how that may impact public confidence.
Yeah, and that's what it's really come back to, is the voter confidence. Do you guys feel confident in election day? I don't, because it's like it's election week, election month. It's no longer election day, and that's really, really unfortunate. Just trying to get my notes where I can see them. All right, on to the next thing. And this is a passage that I wanted to read, and bring it up on screen before we go any further. And this is Mark 13, starting in verse 5. Jesus said to them, "Watch out that no one deceives you. Many will come in my name, claiming, 'I am he,' and will deceive many. When you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in various places and famines. These are the beginning of birth pains. You must be on your guard. You will be handed over to the local councils and flogged in the synagogues on account of me. You will stand before governors and kings as witnesses to them. And the gospel must first be preached to all nations. Whenever you are arrested and brought to trial, do not worry beforehand about what to say. Just say whatever is given you at the time, for it is not you speaking, but the Holy Spirit." I'm going to continue on. Brother will betray brother to death, and a father his child. Children will rebel against their parents and have them put to death. Everyone will hate you because of me, but the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. I wanted to read that because we are in the middle of a war, and there's rumors of other wars going on, and it tells you, watch out that no one deceives you. No one. So it is up to us to be vigilant. Period. That's it. That is it. And Spud McKenzie says, amen. Thank you so much, Spud, for always being here with me every morning. All right. The next bit of news I want to get into is actually a video about earthquakes. And one that just happened. That's a very large earthquake. See, I'll start playing here for a second. I know my internet's a little bit lagging. Just a bit. Not a lot, but just a bit. All right, let me try this again. There we go.
Sydney, Australia. And I'm talking about Tonga, guys. Tonga. Beautiful area, these little islands in the Pacific. But the Pacific Ring of Fire is doing something there. And this is crazy because we've had a lot of magnitude 6 earthquakes in the region in the last...
Oh, I wanted to pause it really quick just to go back. Hopefully I can capture... I'm just ahead of it. So see this area right here? They call that the Ring of Fire. So you've got the United States up to Alaska, and then you've got your Asian islands, and Russia is over here somewhere. But this is what they call the Ring of Fire because of the potential of earthquakes underneath the Pacific and the potential for tsunamis, either on the United States side or on the Asian Pacific side.
In the last few days, amongst my magnitude 5, 4, but 6. And so the magnitude 6 seemed to have been a foreshock to this magnitude 7.6. So something is going on there, because this is an area, this is a monstrosity. So you need to hear that. This is the strongest earthquake in 8 years. And why is this area so significant when we see earthquakes there and this massive cluster swarms with high magnitude earthquakes? Because we had a historic, we have to say, and well-documented earthquake, January 15th, 2022. Earthquake and volcano induced tsunami disaster in that area in Tonga. Underwater volcano Hunga Tonga Hapai experienced a massive explosion that generated a tsunami that has affected the entire Pacific Ocean basin. So that is absolutely crazy. The tsunami waves that were created by that eruption had reached heights of 15 to 20 meters, so almost 100 feet, 50 to 65 feet, and higher in some areas of Tonga. And these islands are flat, right? There are some islands in the Pacific region that are a little bit mountainous, but this is destructive, right? The disaster caused widespread destruction, destroying all homes on Mango Island and severely damaging beach resorts on other islands in the area. So when we hear such a big earthquake, and that just happened, guys, that's fresh from the earth, I'm on the pulse for you. We have to look at, whoa, with that cluster swarm, what's going on? And we've seen it when the mega thrust earthquake hit Kamchatka in Russia. We saw volcanoes triggered. So an earthquake that size alone can trigger underwater landslides, but can it trigger other underwater monsters? Or what is moving there? What is happening? You have to hear that. This is not just one earthquake, as I said it. The region was already shaking. Is this still a foreshock? Well, I so hope not, because all the other magnitude earthquakes that struck in the same zone are already significant, and that's not random. We have to make that clear. It's not random. That is a seismic swarm, a cluster of strong earthquakes that is releasing stress along the same fault system. So we have to look at what we're dealing with here, because here is where Shizzy gets serious, I have to say. Hasn't hit the fizzy yet, but will it? This is happening along the Tonga Kermadec subduction zone. And since we're dealing with the Pacific Ring of Fire, there are the subduction zones, right? That horseshoe ring where we have most of the severe earthquakes in the world and most of the volcanic eruptions. That ring, that horseshoe ring, is lined up with volcanoes. So one of the most extreme tectonic boundaries on Earth are in this Tonga region. This subduction zone is really, if I want to be nice, I say interesting, because the Pacific plate here is diving beneath the Indo-Australian plate at an incredible speed, really, really fast. So we're talking about one of the fastest subduction zones, or the fastest subduction rate on the entire planet. That means the stress is building fast if the plates are moving fast. And when that stress releases, it can release very violently. So now think about what we're seeing. Multiple strong quakes followed by a major 7.6 rupture, and probably we will see more aftershocks, hopefully aftershocks, if that was the main shock. So what we're seeing here with the clusters, that suggests that a section of that plate boundary, of that subduction zone, is actively adjusting right now. And when it comes to subduction zones, that means it always raises the same question. Is this the main event? Is it leading to something bigger, to a megathrust earthquake? That is possible. A magnitude 7 something quake can be a precursor to a megathrust earthquake. We have.
And that's one thing. I'll definitely link that video in the repost so you guys can watch the full video, but I just wanted to play that. Why? Because again, even biblically, it mentions wars, rumors of wars, and earthquakes and pestilences, famines. We're seeing everything play out everything. Now, the next video I'm going to play, I may not be able to play the whole thing because it's kind of lengthy, but it is from Melanie King. And the reason why I wanted to bring her video up is because she kind of ties in what has been talked about in Mark 13.
Here comes the energy lockdowns. Fuel stations run out of diesel across Australia. Waiting for days, India feels impact of gas supply chain disruption. Vietnam braces for flight cuts from April after China and Thailand ban jet fuel exports. Iran war ignites African race to keep gas pumps flowing. And another article that we all need to be paying attention to, what soaring diesel costs amid war with Iran mean for meat, vegetable and fruit prices. So why is there an energy lockdown coming? The IEA now wants alternating license plate restrictions, which means you will not be allowed to be on the roads on certain days. They're also talking about reducing all road speed limits everywhere so that traveling by road is increasingly suffocating and slow. Let's go over.
Now, bringing that up, remember Mondani making that suggestion in New York? Bringing the speed limit down to 20 miles per hour. That was just last week when he made that announcement. And I actually played that here on the show. I was like, what is he talking about? 20 miles? What? Yeah. This is what's happening.
There are 10 recommended measures. Number 1, work from home. That sounds familiar. Number 2, reduce highway speed limits. Number 3, shift to public transport. Number 4, increasing carpooling. Number 5, adopt more efficient driving practices. Number 6, car-free Sundays or alternating license plate restrictions. Number 7, improve fleet efficiency. Number 8, avoid non-essential air travel. Number 9, switch to electric or modern cooking solutions. And number 10, leverage flexibility in petrochemical feedstocks. Welcome to the Great Reset. And yes, this was all planned. And I'm telling you, every world leader, every one of them is playing their part for this to happen.
Yes, guys, that is the point that we are getting to. In fact, that is why I switched my content last year and started talking about the 2030 agenda and how all of these different pieces were moving in place behind the scenes. Most people were not paying attention so that they could enact their new world order. And it's talking about the WEF, which we are still part of, digital ID. I have something about TSA I want to bring up in another video and how I think they're going to usher in digital ID, speed it up, as well as we know we still have the nearly 20 bills that will silence you online, in freedom of speech online, and also enact age verification through digital ID. That is a bipartisan, left and right. That is what they're trying to push through right now, on top of these other things. All right. And we've seen the censorship. We've seen the crackdown with all of that, so that they can continue to enact their agenda, put this out. And really, people cannot share information, can't speak truth. And you just are getting it from the mainstream media. And it is vitally important that you understand that the COVID style, like era level of lockdowns, well, this would be 10 times worse. We are talking about a global shutdown of every part of life, banking, healthcare, the list goes on and on. But what I could never figure out, how would they get those pieces to move together, especially the stuff I'm seeing with AI. And they're saying that no one will have phones by 2030. Everything will go to the neural link in your brain. This is what Elon Musk and the Nokia CEO said. And I've just been seeing these things ramp up, and then tying in the spiritual side of things with the third temple going up. And then we're seeing the signs and wonders in the sky, the birth pains in the earth. Hawaii right now is having an unprecedented flood. Things that are just taking place, and it is so difficult to keep up with. But I've been praying that we can pay attention to those things. But you need to understand where this is leading. And this war that's going on, and particularly with the Strait of Hormuz, what is happening in the Middle East, in the Persian Gulf, directly impacts us, and it is already impacting us. And I'm going to play some of that for you. But I wanted to put this on the screen because many people are starting to say that the COVID lockdowns, this is getting the ball running. This is about to start. And other countries right now, they're already under partial lockdown. Like Wednesdays are off in some countries now. They're making people conserve energy, turn off air condition. Like the governments are doing that because not only are they not able to get new oil, their reserves are running out within a few days to a few weeks. And we are talking about Australia, Japan. Like this is a global crisis. But again, these are the things that were supposed to happen. I just didn't know how, but now we can see. So I just wanted to put this on the screen bigger for you guys who don't, maybe aren't on X or seeing everything. In fact, let's move it down, make it like just a little bigger. Hold on. Because I want you to see it. I want you to, if you aren't aware, and I just want to repeat what she said so you can understand. It's saying work from home where possible to save petrol, and reduce highway speed limits by at least 10 kilometers an hour to reduce fuel usage. Now, this is a international version, but it's here for the U.S. as well. We're under this, and it's going to continue to escalate. Encourage public transport to reduce oil demand. Limit car access to roads in large cities through a number plate rotation scheme. Remember, I did a report a couple.
Because see, right now, they don't have the smart cities. So they're forcing us into a smart city structure, if that makes sense. And everybody's like, what's a smart city? Well, I don't know if you guys remember, maybe about 3 years ago, they were talking about 15-minute cities. Basically, you could get anywhere you needed to get within 15 minutes. But if you went outside of the 15-minute city, you would be charged a carbon tax. Well, Donald Trump came in and got rid of the carbon taxes and said, no, we're not doing that. And I'm actually going to get into some articles where he's actually shifting all of the green energy money back into producing fossil fuels, right? So it creates less dependency. But yeah, they're putting us in a 15-minute smart city structure globally. Now we see it here in Australia. Don't think that it's not going to happen here. Don't think it won't happen here. And people will start to actually curb their own activities based on their financial situations. We already see it happening with TSA workers. They can't even get to work because they're not getting paid. What happens to them? And like I was saying yesterday, maybe some of them actually may become ICE agents. And then inadvertently work at these airports as security. Yeah, things are shifting.
Reports on the flock system, camera systems, where they are in even those orange barrels on the side of the road. And they even have facial recognition that is actually rolled out in the UK and other countries. And they are hidden. And now Flock has a partnership with Ring cameras where the police, law officials can actually tap into your Ring camera along with the Flock if there's, they're looking for a suspect or to review a crime. Yes, that's already baked in to your system. If you haven't checked your system, see if that agreement is already switched on for you. At some point, you won't be able to turn it off, but for now you can. So understand they're tracking us. They're able to, the technology is there and it's already rolled out.
Remember they were talking about, yeah, we'll help you find your dog. Your dog and everything else and everyone else.
And then also the government just did a bill, it just approved for every car in 2027 going forward has to have a kill switch in it so that they can turn your car off anytime they want. I kid you not, this just rolled out, just rolled out. Wow. Increase car sharing, encourage efficient driving for commercial vehicles through load optimization and vehicle maintenance. Divert LPG use from transport to preserve it for essential needs like cooking. Avoid air travel where possible. Look what's happening with our airports. TSA. You think it's just a coincidence that TSA is not being funded and what's happening? And then we're having crashes. We're seeing there's a 4,000 plus shortage of air traffic controllers. And now, because of this, they are allowing people to just take a a quick course at different community colleges, no 4-year degree needed, and you can go into you enter that program, you get a job as an air traffic controller, and I believe it's starting at $100,000. So some of you are looking for work. That's where you need to look. But understand that is what's happening. That's where we're seeing crashes in Colombia right now. A military plane went down because this is a crisis worldwide. Worldwide, we just get most of our news here. A helicopter just crashed in Florida. I mean, the list goes on and on. So not only people don't want to fly, but then the gas prices are going to be so high that it's going to be untenable to fly. Like the United had the CEO put out again, the second time, that prices for airfare are about to dramatically increase for the foreseeable future, at least through the end of 2027. And then again, they're canceling flights. Flights are delayed. People are scared to fly because there's meteors landing all over the country. More today, more yesterday. It's an increasing number that we know are part of the end time signs. Right? So I just want to explain this because this is not to fear, but to inform you and to maybe wake up people who are they're asleep. They're not really paying attention. They're planning vacations and they're thinking they're going to live their best life. And that's just not going to happen. We are now, the new world order is being ushered in at a rapid pace, in this war in Iran is the thing that was the catalyst to finally put all the pieces they've been planning for years, finally put those pieces together and lock us down. There's layers to this. There's no voting out of this. There's no country, politician, government. Nobody is coming to save us. This is part of the plan. But we know things are supposed to get worse, not better, according to the word of God. And now we can see. All right. So encourage electric cooking. Okay. And other options to reduce reliance on LPG. Help industrial facilities switch between different petrochemical feedstock to free up LPG. But I have more.
Okay, hold on a second. If we were in 2019 right now and someone made a video saying, hey, here's what's going to happen in 2020, 21, and 22, including the 2 week to flatten the curve, which turned into 2 or 3 years, and all the other crazy stuff, you'd want to hear about it, right? To be prepared, to be aware, to know what's coming around the corner. Well, we have an idea as to what is about to happen because of the energy crisis that's looming right now and really in the midst. So listen to this. The International Energy Agency released their Sheltering from Oil Shocks report on Friday. And they listed steps. This is kind of like when we have advisories coming out of the World Economic Forum saying, well, we should probably do this if we want to slow the curve. This is another version of that. And this is what they're suggesting to do to be able to slow or stop the effect of the supply shock. So this is a 10-point plan. And if we were to follow the plan, restrictions to movement would be apparent. Now, to clarify, some of this is not confirmed. Some of this is opinion. Some of this is conjecture. We're wondering how exactly this is going to pan out. But listen to this. You got to read between the lines. Alternating days that you can drive on the road based on your license plate. Speed limits lowered everywhere. This is just what they've tabled. It's not confirmed. It's not mandated or anything yet. Car-free Sundays was suggested. This says 40% of flights cut, but that's not confirmed, but there would be less air travel. Working from home is already being suggested in Vietnam, Thailand, and all throughout Asia. Carpooling would be heavily suggested. And also people would want to do that anyway if the price of gas and diesel is through the roof. Now, they're going to call this temporary energy measures. We know that. However, remember, it was supposed to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and it lasted 2 years. They're calling it temporary energy measures during a war, but wars last decades. We know during Shmovid-Shmeintin, that took away many people's right to gather. This could affect our right to move. Now, I don't have all the answers to this or solutions per se, but we need to stay strong like we did during 2020, be aware that other things are going on, and spread awareness.
So that map that you just saw him, he's talking about, this is it right here. Maybe you can screenshot it and flip it around, but this is as big as I can get it. But it's the energy lockdown, and it's in German, but understand this is a worldwide thing. Yeah, and if you can't see the writing on the wall, I think most of us at this point, we can see the writing on the wall. And just for good measure, because I have not shown this in probably over 2 months, been talking about so many other things, but it's so funny. They have this 10-point plan, but this is the WEF's agenda. And this is what I've been focused on, because this right here is how they plan to, this is the beast system. This is essentially our prison, our beast system prison that they have built and it is fortified and they have everything ready to go. But one of the things, and guys, like I've told you, it affects every part of your life. Sorry, I'm gonna make it really big so you can see it. But look at here it is. Travel and mobility. To book trips and to go through border control between countries or regions, meaning you have to comply with the digital ID. Digital ID is not the mark of the beast system. That's not. Nor is Neuralink. I told you what I believe it is that patch from Bill Gates that inserts permanent quantum dots under your skin. It can also insert vaccinations, and it also does gene manipulation. It permanently changes your DNA. On top of that, it puts a QR code permanently under your skin. Goes on the hand or the forehead. And what did Bill Gates say? Which this is funded by Bill Gates. He said that no one will be able to function in society without the digital ID. But that digital ID is tied to your, what they're going to call first your vaccine passport, because they're already drumming up also, we're going to have another COVID-like thing. There's going to be more pandemics. I mean, they are really going to lay it on thick, because they actually want to reduce the population as well. I've shown you that on like my New World Order map, which I'll show you at the end. But look, travel and mobility, food and sustainability, financial services, healthcare, telecommunications, 2 telecommunications. One is for your phone, right? And service providers. The other one are devices, monitor devices and sensors transmitting data such as energy usage. So that now they have to ration the energy. So that ties into you driving the high gas prices they got. Are you seeing that coming together? Air quality and traffic congestion. That never made sense to me. I was thinking of pollution. They're trying to still do this whole pollution thing. No. This is going to be the excuse for it, right? Government, you won't even be able to file taxes, vote, collect benefits without it. Social platforms, this is already underway, where you cannot use social media. You can't even get on the internet. E-commerce. No man can buy or sell lest he bears the mark. E-commerce, to shop, to conduct business transactions and secure payments. Humanitarian response, which there is none at this point from the government. None at all, with all the different crises going on, earthquakes, and I mean, the list goes. I haven't had time to cover it all. But to access services, to demonstrate qualifications to work in a foreign country. Okay, so, but look, to book trips, to go through border control between countries or regions. We know ICE is now at the airports, but now they're talking about deploying the National Guard. All of this is coming together worldwide, not just the US. I mean, every single one. I told you, they already confiscated, the government there confiscated 90 million bank accounts because those people did not comply with digital ID.
The only way to reopen the Strait of Hormuz is either a massive land invasion to secure the shorelines from missiles coming in that the Iranians have by the hundreds and thousands, or it is regime change. Both of those are bad ideas. And the math doesn't work for an escort mission. What I mean is there's a lot of talk now about having Navy ships escort tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, it's a kill box and it's like the worst ambush spot you could possibly be. But on top of that, the math makes no damn sense. Okay, let me show you. During the Iran-Iraq War, when our Navy was double the size it is now, okay, let me repeat that, when we had twice as many ships then as we do now, we only got 35 ships a week through. Well, guess what? Normal traffic is 900 ships a week. On top of that, there are 3,200 ships trapped behind the Strait of Hormuz in the Persian Gulf. 3,200. So just to get those out, even if we doubled the size of our Navy, would take 18 months. That's not getting any new ships through. That's getting the 3,200 that are stuck out, okay? So if you think we can go without the Strait of Hormuz for that long, you're crazy.
The United States produces more oil than any other country on Earth. So why does this conflict with Iran hurt us so much, especially with gas prices and everything else? The United States pumps over 13 million barrels of oil every single day. More than Saudi Arabia, more than Iran, more than everybody in the world. But we still need to buy oil from other countries. How does that even make sense? Well, that's because the oil type that we pump is the wrong type of oil. The oil that we pump out of the ground is light and sweet. It's really good oil, but we can't use it. Why? Because we're not set up for it. Our refineries were built almost 50 years ago, and they were meant to refine heavy oil, which comes from like Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. Our oil is almost too light for our machines, so we just sell it to other countries. In turn, we buy heavy oil from other countries, and that happens every single day. Now, you're probably wondering the same question that I did, which is, why don't we just change over our refineries to just produce the oil that we pump out of the ground? The real reason is that it costs over $1 billion just to change over one refinery. And the reality is that most government officials won't even touch this. It goes back and forth, but never ever gets done. We're stuck in a broken system and no one has bothered to fix it. If you want to know why no one has tried to fix it, just follow the money. The oil companies lobby for politicians. Now, in the United States, we get most of our oil from Canada anyway. So why all the fuss over the Strait of Hormuz? Well, the reality is that the GCC states need that strait to be open because that's the only way that they get food. About 90% of their food actually comes through that strait. Additionally, they're our allies. And we have other allies that are in Southeast Asia and all over the world that need that strait to be opened to get oil. If Japan does not get oil through that strait, they could be out of oil in 8 months, which would be an absolute disaster for them and many other countries around the world. On top of all of this, we trade oil in dollars around the world. We need to protect the dollar. That is our superpower, not our military. There's a lot at stake here, and this was just a thought experiment to get you to think about how these things have shaped up. The next 90 days are going to be very telling to see what happens in the United States, but also all over the world. And I can't help but think, what if we would have just swapped out those refineries 50 years ago and just produced our own oil? Would we ever be in these conflicts?
So you guys get the idea of what is going on. Like, we're not safe here. And I have been seeing, dozens of videos now. People are talking about gas, not just the gas price is costing more, but they're saying something's wrong with this mix, this blend. They are not getting the same mileage. And I'm seeing the same thing over and over and over. And how it's just not lasting like it used to. But I'm gonna do a whole video on that because people have different things that they have discovered, tricks that are going on at the pump. It's crazy, like weights in there and faking and the thing running up while the person's not even pumping, and it just keeps going up and up. Yes.
Hey yo, not only are the gas prices high, but this gas is burning fast as shit. Y'all ain't slick. Like, I can tell my gas is going fucking way faster than it ever has before. And you gonna charge motherfucker almost $4 a gallon?
So people are angry, people are cussing, people are doing that. I'm telling you, don't do it. Like, you can get angry, you can do all of that, but we know that this time is coming, right? This is the appointed end. And some people say, should I just lay down and not fight? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna get them to open the Strait of Hormuz? You're gonna stop digital ID? Or are we going to stop? Like, we don't have that in our power. We need to be praying about this. You need to be in your word. I need to be in my word. I'm telling you, when God woke me up, I had no idea that this would be taking place at this point, but I am thankful that he did just in time so I can see, so I can trust and believe and put my faith in where I know what is happening. This is why they're escalating things so fast. And it was not making sense to me last year with the digital ID rollout and just nothing, and people were not paying attention. And I was like, this is the most important thing. And no one was really discussing it, maybe a little bit here and there. But for the majority, you didn't see it on the news much. You didn't see a lot of big podcasters talking about it. And certainly not the 20 bills that was essentially, like I said, in freedom of speech and forced age verification, digital ID. And just the bioengineered meats, and which is another thing by Bill Gates. The ticks that now make you allergic to beef. Yeah, people have died from that. It was snowballing. And it was like this urgency that I had to talk about it. And now that this is happening, I'm seeing every single piece lay out. And it is directly when it talks about famines, wars, rumors of wars, pestilence, because we can't get pesticides, right? We're not able to get the things we need to actually grow food here. Farmers are already struggling already. And again, I will break that down in another one. But this is just show you, not only are we seeing it in gas, but also people are seeing it at the grocery store. They're seeing it at the stores. And maybe you have. Let me know in the comments.
This economy is so bad. $33 for toilet paper? We can't even afford to shit.
Like, are we dead serious right now? Like, are we dead ass? Is this real life?
Look at that.
$7.29 for Ruffles,
You
y'all.
gotta be fucking kidding us, Ruffles.
a regular Coke, 3 for $20.97. Like actual soda, $21.
What the fuck? Used to get a whole cup.
$13 for
$13.99? $14
orange juice.
for a gallon of orange juice? Y'all must be out of y'all.
For 2 pounds of lunch meat, $23. How the hell
2
we supposed
pounds.
to feed our kids on this crap?
Truly, look at this. Look how small this pack is. Seriously, that fits like in my palm. Crazy.
The grocery stores are like, it look like it haven't even been touched.
And that's if that food would even measure out right. Because there was, I think, a video that I had come across like maybe about a month ago where a gentleman, he was randomly going through different Walmarts and he was measuring the meat in comparison to what it said on the label. And in instances, the meat was like several pounds less than they were charging. Yeah. So still make sure if you are buying meat, measure it. And if it says it's 5 pounds and they're charging for 5 pounds, but it only comes out to 2.5 pounds, you need to point that out to the managers and say, why am I paying for 5 pounds of meat if it's not 5 pounds? Now, I know a lot of the managers say, well, it's already pre-done before it gets to us. Be like, okay, well, then somebody's lying, right? Somebody's lying. And somebody needs to, either go to jail or figure this out. But you cannot purposely overcharge people and not give them what you actually put in the package. Like that's complete fraud. Like that's just thievery. It's like, okay, I'm going to tell you this is 5 pounds, but it's actually 3 pounds, but I'm going to charge you for 5 pounds. Like, no, that doesn't work that way. Walmart. And I'm just using Walmart as an example because that's where it's been found. But it might be at Kroger's, it might be at Publix, it might be everywhere. We have to check on everything, everywhere. But then again, this comes back to why were people prepping and buying, food for this reason right here, for this exact reason right here. Now, a lot of these grocery stores, they're still relying on federal assistance to keep them afloat. Because really the only people that can afford some of this food are for people getting government assistance and welfare. Why do you think people are upset that illegals can no longer get welfare? Because they were getting thousands of dollars a month, not Americans. Not Americans. So what do you think the next step is? UBI? Universal Basic Income? Because people can't work. I mean, it's starting to bubble up to that cascade moment. But I definitely wanted to look at, hopefully this is the right one. I was going through Grok and just different questions, especially about government workers. And I wanted to, let me share my screen really quick. Because I knew she was talking about government workers. And I said, can you see if there's been an increase in automation government contracts to replace biological workers, right? Because that is very important. And I know a lot of you might be like, what do you mean? These government contracts? Well, a lot of these things that we see, that happen at the airports, it's dependent upon government contracts, right? Now, TSA, they're not under a government contract. They work with the government. But let's use Tesla, for example. When they came out with the Cybertruck, that was a government contract to come up with those cyber trucks. That was a special contract. So I wanted to know, is the same thing going to happen with biological workers and robotics? Remember, I was saying the other day, I was like, well, they can just automate the airport and get rid of all the TSA workers. They could. Facial recognition, real ID, passports, and automate the whole thing. Get rid of all the workers, but still have security for now that are humans. So yes, there has been a clear and accelerating increase in U.S. government contracts and funding for robotics, autonomous systems, and related automation, particularly those designed to augment or reduce reliance on human biological workers. This trend is most pronounced in the Department of Defense, where the goal is often explicitly to offload risky, repetitive, or high workload tasks from soldiers and personnel. Civilian agencies show more modest growth focused on pilots, software based robotic processes, automation, right? RPA. So when you hear robotic process automation, or you keep hearing RPA, just know it's not for humans. And efficiency tools rather than large scale workforce replacement. So the defense sector, strong growth in contracts for robotics replacing human roles. The DoD has significantly ramped up spending in contract awards for unmanned autonomous systems. These are frequently framed as reducing human risk, offload risk from soldiers, and enabling operations with fewer personnel in contested environments. So, Replicator Initiative, and this was launched in 2023. This high profile program aims to field thousands of low cost, attritable autonomous systems, drones, uncrewed vehicles, and we've seen this as it's been coming by 2025. And we're in 2026 now. With a follow on efforts, Replicator 2 for counter drone tech, it has already led to prototype and production contracts with companies like Anduril, AeroVironment, L3 Harris, Swarm Aero, and others for swarming autonomy software, uncrewed aerial maritime systems, and command and controls tools. The focus is scaling all domain attributable autonomous ADA2 capabilities to operate with minimal human intervention. Budget trends. So the DoD requested $13.4 billion for AI and autonomy in fiscal year 2026, the largest single year investment in defense history. Navy unmanned systems funding $5.3 billion requested for fiscal year 2026, roughly a 70% increase from prior years, covering autonomous surface vessels, software, and underwater vehicles. Army robotics development program, steady year after year growth, with fiscal year allocations supporting emerging robotic systems and autonomy formations to reduce soldier workload in armed infantry units. Overall, DoD AI autonomous systems budgeting tripled from $7 billion in 2019 to $25.2 billion in fiscal year 2025, about 3% of the total DoD budget. $25.2 billion is just 3% of the budget. It's crazy. So, market and broader context. The global military robotics market is projected to grow at 8.7% CAGR from $19.7 billion in 2024 to $32.5 billion by 2030, with the U.S. as the dominant player. Autonomous defense platforms alone are forecast to expand from $69.8 billion in 2026 to $198.9 billion by 2034. Contracts emphasized AI integration for independent operation, directly tying to workforce reduction in hazardous roles. So yeah, they're already looking through contracts to replace humans. So civil federal agencies, more limited but growing automation. Evidence of large-scale robotics contracts specifically to replace human workers is weaker outside defense, but automation spending, including RPA, software, robots, and some physical systems, has risen. So federal R&D, which is research and development spending, over $6 billion awarded to robotics, automation, and advanced manufacturing R&D from 2018 to 2022 at a 222% increase. So it's gone up. The DoD of Commerce led, but civilian agencies, NSF, NASA, HHS, DOE, and the USDA accounted for significant shares. Many awards support systems that reduce manual labor needs. Okay, so here's like USPS. This is the United States Post Office. Long history of piloting autonomous mobile robots in sorting facilities to replace heavy equipment operators and reduce work hours processing time. Plans for broader rollout exist, though not a DoD scale. Older proposals called for $1 billion a year robotics funds to aid sorting and delivery. Yeah. So will it be, I don't know for you guys, but I've been to Atlanta and they already have autonomous Uber type vehicles that can drive you around, a driverless car. And they also have the little robots on the street delivering food. What's to say they can't have those same robots with a mechanical arm deliver the mail? They just haven't figured it out yet. But the money is there for that sorting and delivery. They can do that in neighborhoods now if they wanted to. I'm just saying. It's not far-fetched. It's just, what is it going to look like? And who's gotten the contract, right, to develop the technology for this? Who's to say a drone won't just drop your mail at your door? I'm just saying. Stranger things have happened. A lot of the newer subdivisions that I've seen, they have the mailboxes centrally located in one area. So it's not like the mail comes to your house, right? In some subdivisions, it's just one central location. All the mail gets delivered to one place, and that's where your mail goes, and that's where you pick your mail up from. Is that where we're going to, right? NSA and others' early adoption of RPA robots for low-value administrative tasks, right? Like procurement and data entry. Recent AI tools, including a GSA and VA, automate contract analysis and routine work, reducing headcount in offices. So there may be a director of procurement, right? But you may only need 3 people because the process is automated. So you're just making sure that the signature is had, that if there's any negotiation that goes back and forth, but now a lot of that's going to be automated by computer, and you're going to have to understand AI in order to do this. But this is where we come in as humans, all right? I'm just saying, but they are really looking to put everybody out of work. So in summary of the trend, the increase is confirmed. Yes, defense budgets, contracts have surged. And that was my question. Why the push? Labor shortages, cost savings, risk reduction, and efficiency. Private sector parallels like Amazon warehouses, where they have let go of thousands of people because it's completely automated in some instances with Amazon. When you buy from them now, it's robotic. They have a few humans in those areas, but not many. But government data shows the same direction. So caveats, not all automation means mass layoffs. Many systems augment humans. Civilian replacement is slower and often software-based. Okay, so can you list a few of the current requests from SAMS.gov? Because that's usually who does the contracts, right? So here's some. DevX Autonomy. It's an Army Applications Laboratory Transformation and Training Command. So it's a long-term contract. Its focus is on autonomy, stacks, unscrewed platforms across domains. Okay. It's an R&D testing procurement. Okay. So the request for information. So it's just breaking down what the contract is. Uncrewed aircraft system marketplace, commercial solutions. Robotic process automation. Right? We were talking about that. A bot development and delivery. So solicitation for expert support in designing, developing, delivering, and configuring RPA bots compatible with UiPath Microsoft environments, plus AI enhanced for operational efficiency. So this is the industrial revolution transformation into this computer world. And it's happening. And I just got to tell y'all about it and bring it to you. So I asked another question. I said, are any of these sustainable developments listed in Agenda 2030? Because it was something she also pointed out in the video. Not specific to SAM.gov. I want to know if robotics or new industry is listed in Agenda 2030. It says no. Robotics, automation, or specific new industries like autonomous systems are not directly listed or explicitly mentioned in the official text of the UN, which is United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Okay. So the relevant goal 9, right, is to build resilient infrastructure, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. So SDG 9, which is a sustainable development goal. 9.2, promote inclusive and sustainable industrialization. 9.4, upgrade infrastructure and retrofit industries to make them sustainable with increased resource use efficiency and greater adoption of clean and environmentally sound technologies and industrial processes. Okay, kind of gets back to the climate change conversation a little bit. We need clean and sustainable energy. Okay, we'll use better products. You still want to take the money from corporations that are going to put out pollutions, but then you want the people to pay for it and suffer if they use said products. So we're paying for it, but they're putting it out. And we're getting punished. Like we're the enemy. It's like, okay, why don't you actually go after the company that's putting this out? Oh, you can't do that because that's who's lining your pockets. Like it's a bad relationship right now. We need better relationships. So 9.5, enhance scientific research, upgrade the technological capabilities of industrial sectors, encouraging innovation. All that is an upgrade in robotics without saying it. Because where are you headed? Really? Okay. And then 9B, support domestic technology development, research, and innovation. So they're there. They're just not saying it explicitly, right? And that's what it is. So SDG 9, industrial innovation. SDG 2, zero hunger. We're always going to have hunger because everybody's become dependent globally. No one's independent of one another. People can grow their own food. People can have a sustainable environment. It's just how are you going about it? But we've created these dependencies, right? And now we want to figure out a way to get out of it. It's really crazy. It's right. Again, they want the people crying for a solution that's going to be worse than the problem it solves. And that's the scary part. So that was Agenda 2030. And then I looked, no, actually, that was the TSA robots. Agenda 2030. This is for the video. So they kind of both went hand in hand, but I had to talk about the technology and the robots taking over people. But then that flows into 2030. But now let's go back to the video. We're talking about Agenda 2030. Okay, so the YouTube video, and here's the Energy Agency's IEA 10-point plan for reducing oil demand through behavioral and policy changes. And this is what was outlined in the video, right? Encouraging work from home, lower speed limits, more public transportation, carpooling, odd and even driving restrictions, car-free days, reduced non-essential flights, efficient driving, and other conservation measures. Okay, so this, wow, war. I'm telling you, this is war. Because right now, you're looking at restricting people's movement. Here are the phases of war: movement, protection, communication. Those three things equal war. They've constantly come after the communication. Here's all the list of transportation. And they're constantly coming after the Second Amendment that we have here in the United States. We'll start with Virginia, creating policies over the Second Amendment, which is completely illegal. And nobody's calling these people on it, and it needs to be called out. Anytime a politician tries to come after the Second Amendment, and I know everybody out there is going to be kind of wailing, but what about the shooters? Guns don't kill people, people kill people. We have a mental problem, right? And also we have a criminal problem because nobody's talking about locking up the criminals. You want to take away the guns from innocent people. You don't want to take away the guns from the criminals. What are we talking about? What are we talking about? If you're not going to take it away from the people that will kill other people, what are you talking about? So they went through the sustainability goals, which I shared with you guys. Now, SDG 11 is for cities and communities. Measures like promoting public transport, car-free days, lower speeds. Now, so all that ties into Agenda 2030, what she was talking about. So in short, the video thesis that it works like an emergency energy response is actually the engineered implementation of Agenda's 2030's sustainability goals, using climate and resource scarcity as the justification for permanent restrictions on travel, work, and daily life, with surveillance tech as the enforcement tool. Now, I just walked you through some of those SAM.gov contracts that are already out there, that they're already looking for people. Hey, put this in place. This is going to be great. For who? We're creating a prison for ourselves. This is crazy, but biblical. Look, we just need to be prepared for it. Now, she also mentioned some free speech bills, and I just wanted to bring this up as well. So there's the Free Speech Fairness Act, which is HR 2501 and for House Resolution, and then Senate 1205, because they usually work in tandem, would repeal parts of the Johnson Amendment allowing 501c3 nonprofits and churches to speak on political issues or candidates without losing their tax exempt status. So there have been a lot of people that have been like, I don't like when the churches get political. Some people want their churches to be political. So now you're not going to be punished for it. Okay. Free speech on campus requires public colleges and universities to adopt free speech policies protecting expressive activities as a condition of receiving federal funding. Well, here's the thing. People are like, yeah, we want free speech. But once you commandeer a building and you don't allow people to leave and you sequester them in there, that's kidnapping, number one. Number two, that's just breaking the law. You can't commandeer the building. You can have your free speech. You can have your little walk in, sit out, whatever. But once you start sequestering people and taking over buildings, that's not free speech. It's not. Now, Free Speech Act of 2025 prevents the FCC from using regulatory power to force broadcast or regulated media entities to align their content or editorial positions with any administration's ideology. So somebody gets in office and they're saying, hey, you have to say things this way. You can't say things that way. They've been doing that for years. That's hilarious to me. They've been doing that forever. But now they're saying that, yeah, they're going to make laws against it. So No Political Enemies, NOPE Act, introduced by Representative Crow, Senator Murphy, Democratic sponsors, aims to protect individuals and groups from politically motivated federal investigations, prosecutions, or harassment based on protected speech or viewpoints. Really, we have freedom of speech in this country. All you have to do is just uphold the law. But see, by putting laws like this curtailing free speech, puts free speech in a box that can be controlled. So how free is our free speech anymore? These are things that are just out there right now. Protect First Amendment Act. Why do we need an act to protect something that's in our Constitution? Like, y'all are wild. So this bars the federal government from denying contracts, grants, and other benefits to businesses or individuals solely based on their lawful speech or political position. Why do we even need stuff like this? Because people are crazy. I'm just going to get it. I'm just going to look at the end of the day because people are silly. And we shouldn't even be here right now. Like, what are we doing? What are we talking about? So let's take a quick break. And when we return, we will continue with Tell It All Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. And we'll see you on the other side.
Lineage, legacy, leverage. Genealogy is the lane. Community is the destination. But care, that's how we get there. At TBAT Task Force, we don't just research history. We reclaim what was stolen. For Black American descendants, proving who you are is the first step toward reparative justice and recognition.
Get 4 hours of expert research, a verified certificate, and a care-based session to guide your next steps. A $155 contribution doesn't just fund your search, it fuels 5 community positions. It's a cycle of growth.
Ready to claim your history? Start your journey or book a free care call today. Your legacy is waiting.
Yes, and make sure you check out TBAT or the BlackAmericanTribe.com to get your lineage done. And again, it creates an ecosystem and it actually helps you learn about your lineage. And everybody needs to be prepared these days in knowing who you are. So thank you so much to TBAT for sponsoring that commercial for today. Oh, we got some comments. I want to get to everything. You're talking about the carbon footprint, hellfire. Yeah, that carbon footprint thing. I wish it were a myth. I should say in practice and in general, who are we? We are actually carbon-based life forms. So we are always creating a footprint, but it's the ecosystem, right? Our carbon dioxide gives life to the trees, and the trees in return emit oxygen for us. That is a good life cycle. Now, when it's carbon monoxide, which is a poisonous gas, the trees actually help to suppress that. So we have an oxygen-rich environment. Now, our companies, putting out more carbon monoxide, right? Making our environment worse. And if they are, how are they allowed to do it, right? Again, they're being allowed to do it, but they want to blame humans because we're the consumers of the products, right? So it works in tandem, but I think it could work better because we do have technologies that are clean energy sufficient. They're just not using it because they want depopulation. They don't want us to be free. And that's the sad part. But let's continue on with today's topics. Trying to get through all of these topics as smoothly as I can. Let me see. Let me get rid of that one. Like I'm trying to go through everything, keep everything. The next one I wanted to get to, it is, oh yeah. Oh, this was interesting, but I wanted to briefly look at this video, and it's talking about Obama in Iran and what happened in 2015.
They've been having it coming a long time. Death to America. Wow, some people actually believe that there should be a president to do something about it.
Now, that was a different perspective, right? Now, he brought it, and in my opinion, he brought up a lot of different points. Because, yeah, the soldiers were captured during his State of the Union address in 2015. Like, that happened under Obama. But there was no retaliation from the United States during that time. And I want to say, didn't we end up giving Iran money? Didn't bring that up. I think we ended up giving like a pallet of billions of dollars cash. I think that happened. Yeah. And it's international affairs has always been confusing to me. Basically, you know, because we, you know, it's, how should I say it? It's, I have to look at it like a drug deal. I do. I can't look at like, oh, all the fancy things. Like, no, it's just a drug deal. It's a drug exchange. It's an exchange of power and money. And the drugs are the military weapon, right? Who has more? Who has less? Who's addicted to it, right? And who thinks that they have enough juice to bring that smoke? I mean, that's literally how I have to look at it, because this is like straight gangster mentality. It really, really is. And I just have to say it like it is. Now, he has his position, right? He's just like, I'm standing with Israel. And my whole thing has always been, I pray for the people of Israel. I really don't like what their government is doing right now. I do not like what's happened, how our government has gotten involved in an Israeli issue, right? If we have an issue with Iran separate from Israel, then our issue is directly with Iran, if everybody's following me. But it should not be coupled with Israel. Israel should be able to stand on their own if this is what they want to do, but we should not be wrangled into their issues, period. They should be able to stand on their own if this is the issue that they have. Now, the next thing we're going to get into, and this is something I came across. I'm not going to play the whole video, but this is a website that has been developed by the amazing Lucas.
For us. Oh my goodness. So you guys know how I talk about on the channel how politicians exploit the black community. They use our black vote to get into office, and then when they get into office, they give us a cold shoulder. Or worse, they vote against our interests. When it comes to bills, we've seen how they, manipulate bills to, they promote it as one thing, and then the bill is completely something different. Or worst cases, we have bills that are just, they're just symbolic gestures. Oh, we're going to build a monument, or we're going to have, boulevard change and stuff like that don't benefit black Americans at all. And then we get politicians, who are just there for a paycheck. They haven't done anything. They haven't used their political clout for our vested interests. They're just collecting a paycheck and hoping no one notices. Well, those days are over. That's right. Those days are long gone, because what I've created is a website that tracks all of that. And the website is blackvotewatch.org. And what I want this to be, or what I created to be, is a hub, a political hub for black Americans.
Someone cooked here.
So if you type in your zip code, it'll bring you up your representatives. And along each side, each representative, there is a score. And how that score is based off of whether or not they are for black Americans. Now, I don't go into, what they've said. I don't go into whether or not I like the person. None of that. All of it is based off of, hey, do their words align with their vote? Damn. And also, in addition to that, there is a sellout list. And in the sellout list, you have to understand that there may be people who have a high score, meaning that, yes, they vote, in line to benefit black Americans, but they'll still be a sellout because they haven't advocated on our behalf outside of the vote. They haven't pressured other leaders on our behalf. And I think that's extremely important to differentiate, because just because you vote when a bill comes up that may benefit us, that's great. What are you doing the other, days of the week? How are you using your political capital, for our vested interests as black Americans? In addition to that, we can see as far as whether or not they're even black American, because we do have people who aren't black American in Congress. And, we list off all the 67 people, black people in Congress, whether Republican, Democrat. So you can filter, whether they're black American, whether they're not black American. You can filter, their grades. You can filter, the states that they come from. In addition to that, there's a ranking showing the top representatives, the top worst states, the top best cities for black Americans. Let's fucking go. There's also something that I talk about ad nauseum, is a leverage page, and it's our leverage. Now, on the leverage page, it shows a list of representatives, senators, mayors, governors that have gotten into office on our vote. That's correct. That means they've gotten into office on our vote. Some of them have done, right by us, but others have not done right by us. And why that's important is because if these people have gotten into office because of the black vote, right, and they're not doing right by us, well, guess what? We need to vote them out. And under each profile, there is a vote out of office, and it gives you a date. Because a lot of the times people are like, when's the date to vote this person out? How do we get this person out of office? Oh, what have they done? All those days are over. So when someone lies to you, whether it's on CNN, Fox News, or what they've done for black people, or what they haven't done, or what they'd like to do, all that, I don't care about any of that. What I care about is the facts, okay? You can miss me with the nonsense. I want to see the facts. I don't care what you like to do, okay? I don't care what you hope to do. What have you done? That's it. That's all that matters. And if you haven't done anything, you've been in office, political office for this amount of time, it's now time to vote you out.
Let's fucking go.
Now, obviously, there's a share link, so you can share this with other people, in your area, in your state, so that we can all be on code. Now, in addition to that, there's a bill section. The bill section is categorized by 7 categories. I can't remember them off the top of my head. I know it's reparations, wealth gap, voting rights, education, and healthcare, and there's others. But that's where all the bills are categorized by. And there's also another label of nothing burger bills, okay? That's why I call it, but do nothing bills, which is nothing more than symbolic bills of, we're going to change this to, Obama Boulevard, or, hey, we're going to put a monument here, or we want America to apologize for slavery. That's what I label as do nothing bills. They don't tangibly change or impact how black Americans live our lives. That monument that you build up, that's great. But unfortunately, how does a George Floyd monument benefit me as a black person? How does that change my income? How does that benefit my health care? How does that stop police from targeting me? It doesn't.
He's out of line, but he's right.
I also want to put that category in there just so people can be aware of, in case you hear it on the news, we're trying to get HB, blah, blah, blah passed, that you can look it up and be like, that's a nothing burger bill. And it gives you a breakdown because a lot of these bills are overly complicated and they're filled with unnecessary jargon. And the reason why they have this is to confuse you. That's it. It's not because they need to use, this jargon, to sound professional. They just want the average person, in this case, the average black American, to not know what the bill does and what it doesn't do.
Damn.
And those days are over. It's done. Okay, I'm sick and tired of these people saying the bill does something that it doesn't do. So for every bill, there's a caveat to it. Okay, you have to understand that, there's some good, but there's also some bad. More importantly, there's a funding page. This is where we get to see where our money is going. We have PACs and we have super PACs. It explains, the difference between both and explains some of the top, black PACs out there. You'll start to notice, if you keep on clicking, that a lot of these PACs are ran or the money's controlled by non-black people. Okay, it just is what it is. Like I said, I'm not giving an opinion. These are just the facts. It just is what it is. Now, if you choose to donate to that PAC based off of their track record, based off of maybe possible scandals that they have had, based off of the treasurer, that's up to you. Because you look at these pages and they always have a black person smiling. It's like one of these, pharmacy commercials, okay? These pharmaceutical commercials. They're like, hey, are you suffering from diarrhea? Well, just take laxative 506 and you'll be okay. And then it tells you, well, you may suffer nausea, death, blindness, paralysis. That's, once again, the whole purpose is to be transparent with this. Now, this is version 1. I do want to mind you, this is version 1. We can get this thing, kicked off and get it successful, make it, pop and everything. I would actually like to create an app because I know we all have phones. It's easier to get an app notification than to maybe get an email or something like that. I would like to do that. And then I would also like to expand it into cities, right? Because we have city council meetings. We have school board meetings that they make it almost impossible to let people know when these things are happening. And those days are over. As the scripture says, whether or not, you're faith-based or not, but my people suffer due to lack of knowledge, bro. It's just our ignorance is really what's stopping us. As Malcolm X said, hey, they don't outnumber us, they out-organize us. So those days are over. I would eventually like to absolutely build out platforms that like, hey, we're having a Black American meeting on this date, or this group is having a Black American meeting on this date. There's a meetup. So I would like to organize that so that we can be organized, so that we can actually be on code, so that we can see, hey, this is for us, this is against us. Now, like I said, that being version 1, you know what? If you see any problems, you have any issues, please feel free to reach out, shoot an email. There's a contact, shoot an email, let us know, and we're constantly updating it. So that is the goal right now, is that we can be educated as a people and, cut through the nonsense. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're Democrat. I don't care if you're independent. One of the great things I do like about this is that we can see that if, hey, you may be an incumbent, right? You may have the seat, but if there's someone running against you, right? If you got a primary, if you got a challenger and that person is more black than you, then guess what? Sayonara, fam. Bye-bye. Adios, muchacho. That's it. Now, I would also like to add additional features as the time goes on. Once again, it's me right now. It's me and a programmer. So, give me some time. But this is what, I think this is a game changer. I think the days.
Yes. And I will definitely link so you guys can watch the rest of the video because I'm running out of time as always. But I wanted to definitely share that with you. Now, I don't want everybody getting all offended. Like, why do you guys have separated black people? Because here's the thing that happens. And I do go back to this preacher. And I played this clip from a righteous perspective a couple weeks ago. He says, with the Democratic Party, they expect the black vote and they do nothing for black people because they know they don't have to, right? And then with the Republican Party, they don't expect black people to vote for them and they still don't do anything for black people because they don't know what black people want. And the problem with us as a community, we've been splintered purposely, in my opinion. So we don't understand that we need to actually have a voting block and move in purpose. Okay. Some of us, we're so staunch in either party, right? And I'll just use the Republicans and the Democrats as an example. So staunch in the party that you forget, well, what's better for us collectively as a whole, regardless of party, right? And we can use reparations as an example. There are people that are for it. There are people that are against it. But you have to ask the people that are against it, why are you so against it if it would actually help repair our community? Now, let's just say, for example, both sides, Republicans and Democrats. Okay, we are for reparations. Well, where are those candidates actually working towards that, right? And that just gives the example. I'm not going to put in my zip code here because I don't want to give out my personal information, but he explained to you and showed you how it works, right? Use your zip code, see how they vote, and no matter what. So let me remove it. Let me put in my zip code. Let's see what happens. See who they bring up. Oh, okay. Now let's bring up. Now this is interesting because he's got Raphael Warnock is at 90%. He's getting an A. I don't know how he's such a strong advocate, but he's also a sellout. So I'm like, you're an advocate, but you're also a sellout. You're a sellout, period. In my opinion, he is not for black people at all. Donor conflict is clean. I don't think so. Supports reparations. He supports the study. But why is he on the sellout list, right? Warnock has one of the strongest policy records on the site. He voted for the American Rescue Plan, Inflation Reduction Act, and gun safety legislation. Now, see, in my opinion, this very much leans left because conservatives are completely against this. Now, Lucas, I appreciate you, sir, but you're going to have to fix this. You're going to have to fix the algorithm to be honest. And it's not being honest. It is being biased. But that's just my opinion. Now, critical moment, he voted no on the filibuster for reform in 2022, which directly killed the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, and the reparations study for the Senate. Well, the reparations study isn't doing anything for anybody. It's been in there for 40 years talking about we're going to do another study for reparations. So what are we talking about? Now, why it matters. Black voters in Georgia flipped Senate control in January 2021. 800,000 showed up. The filibuster vote was the single moment where the leverage could have been converted into law. He chose re-election strategy over his constituents. Now, his seat is up in 2028. The reason why I know this is because I live here in Georgia. Now, he was born in Savannah, and that is where he is from. That is where he hails from. What they've done against us, in my opinion, he's done a lot of things against us. Here's the thing: voted for the American Rescue, delivering direct COVID relief and the child care tax credit expansion to Black American families in Georgia, a state where Black communities face disproportionate pandemic economic hardship. The Inflation Reduction Act capping costs at $35 a month. It brought on more inflation. It's kind of where we're at right now. Sorry. In my opinion, this is very much, and this is just my opinion, this is depending on your politics, you could view it as more left-leaning than unbiased, in my opinion, because see, HR 40 is nothing more than a study. Okay. And it says he voted, let me bring it back up again. He voted to keep the filibuster, the procedural rule that killed the George Floyd Act, voting rights restoration, and HR 40. Now, again, HR 40 is nothing more than a study. That's it. It's never going to help reparations. They've been doing it for 40 years. What are we talking about? It's never going to go to the floor for a vote. It dies in committee because it's nothing more than a study. It is not legislation. So, I mean, I'll continue to look at this, but there's one that I found that's better, giving a grade on actual politicians, regardless of their ethnicity background, right? But it really just outlines their policy. And it's not Open Secrets, it's not govtrack.us, it's another one. I'll have to find it. Maybe I'll bring it up tomorrow. But what it does is it grades the politicians on not only how they vote, right, and what bills, but it also talks about what legislations they've actually brought forward, like what work they've actually done, and then it grades them on that. So I can understand, and I do appreciate all the hard work he's put into this. Don't get me wrong. I totally appreciate it. But depending on your politics, this works for you or it doesn't work for you. Now, for me, just looking at Warnock, it doesn't work for me. He should have a grade F all the way down for Georgia because he does nothing for Georgia. He's done nothing. This is a man who claims to be a preacher who supports the LGBTQ plus 2S community. Now, a lot of people might get mad about that, but you're supposed to love everybody. Stop that. It's not about love. It's about doing what's right and what's wrong. And for this man to side with legislation to have people believe something that isn't true, first of all and foremost, sorry, no. Claiming you're from Ebenezer Baptist Church, which you're not. You're from another Ebenezer church. That's not the church. That's from the King family. And it's a misrepresentation. And you've been called out on it by Alveda King. She's called you out on that because you're really not doing for Georgia. You're doing for the party. This is somebody who took over $500,000 from AIPAC. Oh, yeah, there's that too. Okay, so I've been watching Warnock. He doesn't care. He does not care about Georgia. He is definitely a party politician. I'll say that. He's about the party. He is not about the people. And I think that's fair. And that's where I will leave that whole conversation. I'm trying to think, should I get into anything else? Because let me get into some all sides before we get out of here. So Trump claims productive talks with Iran, and Iran says fake news. Now, people have been talking about this yesterday because when Trump said, yeah, I've been talking with them, this, that, and the other, there was a large swing in the market, right? A lot of people are upset about it because Iran came back and said, no, we did not talk. I was like, ooh, yeah, which is very interesting. So President Trump said the U.S. will hold off on its promise to obliterate Iranian power plants because two countries have had meaningful peace discussions, though Iran has denied that the negotiations have taken place. Now, Trump said in all caps on Truth Social, over the last 2 days, the two nations have had very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution, prompting a directive to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period. Okay. Now, Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammed Bagar Ghalbaf wrote on X, no negotiations have been held with the U.S. and fake news is used to manipulate the financial and oil markets and escape the quagmire in which the U.S. and Israel are trapped. Iranian Foreign Minister spokesman Islami Baghdadi told Iranian state media outlet IRNA that messages have been received from some friendly countries regarding the U.S.'s request for negotiations to end the war. Now, my question is, why haven't we seen the leader physically? It's been 2 weeks? Almost, yeah. I want to say, yeah, it's been about 2 weeks. We haven't seen this dude. We're hit. We've seen a picture. We need proof of life. That's all I'm saying. Where's the proof of life at? Why do we still have individuals that say they represent? Where's your leader? Now, there have been speculation that he was injured or hurt or something else going on. Where is he at? What are we doing? Yeah, like all this is a mess. Again, gotta go back. Mark 13, 5-13. Do not be deceived. There are going to be wars and rumors of wars. Now, Trump clarifies on Monday morning Fox Business that leans right bias most Maria Bartiromo said she asked Trump about the Iranian claims that no talks had happened. Bartiromo said, I asked him what his reaction is to the Iranian state television saying that there are no talks. And he said he's not sure what they're referring to because the most recent talks happened. In fact, last night with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner and their counterparts, he said it's hard to get any information there because of the U.S. is blowing up so much of their infrastructure. Now, here's how other media outlets covered it. Outlets across the spectrum noted the split narratives, though outlets from the left and center often did so in headlines, while outlets on the right did not. So Fox News on the right was the only outlet all sides found to note Trump's clarification when asked about it by Fox Business host Bartiromo. It's going to be confusing because there's wars and rumors of wars. And when you have what's happening right now, again, I'm still not calling it a war because we're still in this 90-day time frame, the 60 days of conflict, and then the 30 days to leave. Now, with deployments of the Marines, once they set foot on ground, then we're at war officially. Then Congress has got to get involved. Okay? We're not there yet. This is still a conflict. But everybody wants to be, hyperbolic and out there with messaging because that does affect our markets. And it goes up and down, and it's very, very crazy. And over here, AI propaganda and polarization, more reasons to distrust the media. I know. It's always up and down. And so another headline, U.S. Issues security alert for Americans abroad amid Iran war. It's not a war. It is a conflict. And yes, people need to be careful during travel. And this is something that I had brought up where Trump admin cancels wind energy projects redirects $1 billion to fossil fuels. So now they're getting away from the wind turbines. And see, people don't realize what happens with those wind turbines. They turn into fields of turbines. And when those machines no longer work, they just stop working. You can't fix them. Why would you build something you can't fix? Why would you build something that would take you almost as much as what you built it to remove it? And call it efficient. Yeah, the wind turbines are crazy. So the Trump administration paid the French energy company Total Energies nearly $1 billion as a refund for money it invested in offshore wind farms under the Biden administration. Instead, the company will use the money to invest in American oil and natural gas. The Justice Department will pay back Total Energies for federal leases to develop wind farms off the coast of New York and North Carolina under the Biden administration. Instead, the company will spend that money on liquefied natural gas plant in Texas and invest in developing oil drilling operations in the Gulf of America, also known as Gulf of Mexico. So hopefully, what the gentleman was talking about, because we do have the sweet crude, they will actually develop a plant that will process that type of oil as opposed to the heavier crude oil from other countries. And that way we start to become more independent as opposed to dependent. Just to finish up, the Interior Department said under this initiative agreement driven by President Donald Trump energy dominance agenda, the American people will no longer pay for ideological subsidies that benefited only the unreliable and costly offshore wind industry. So CNN on the left highlighted that the 2 canceled wind farm projects could have generated more than 4 gigawatts of electricity for households and businesses. It also noted that though U.S. Interior Secretary Doug Bergman pointed out that the offshore wind is one of the most expensive forms of energy, wind energy also has set prices that don't fluctuate, unlike oil and natural gas. Now, Fox Business That Leans Right heavily quoted officials in the Trump administration who favored the deal, including Bergman and Attorney General Pam Bondi, included a response from the offshore wind trade group that criticized the use of taxpayer funds to block the project. A senior representative from Oceanic Network said the political theater meant to obscure the fact that offshore wind capacity is being pulled out of the windpipe when energy prices are skyrocketing, even as offshore and wind projects continue delivering reliable and affordable power to the grid. No, they don't. They deliver a very low price. And the reason why some of our cost energy is up is because we don't have the proper infrastructure to deliver the most energy. They have sustainable energy for us. They have energy that could light up things forever, for decades, for centuries, but they're not releasing it to the public because, again, they need to have their economic slaves. Somebody's got to be rich and somebody's got to be poor. And that's just how it is. Not trying to be cruel, just trying to say it is what it is. And with that, thank you so much for joining me here on Tell It All Tuesday. We will be back tomorrow with Women in Wellness Wednesday with a special guest, Janelle King. Really looking forward to talking with her about the State Board of Elections where she serves. So thank you guys so much for joining me here today. And again, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.